What's going on, everyone? Zach from thebarbellphysio.com here, and I want to talk today about returning to deadlifts after dealing with a low back pain flare-up. So getting back to deadlifts can be a challenging or scary thing, and so we're going to go through a couple of exercises that kind of build your foundation back up and get you ready to get back on the barbell. So the first thing we're going to do is a PVC hip hinge. So this is something that I'm going to use really early in somebody's low back pain rehab. So we're going to get a dowel touching their butt, their upper back, their head, soft knees, and we're just going to practice kind of greasing the groove of that hip hinge pattern that's the foundation of the deadlift. So I'm maintaining these 3 points of contact as I go up and down, pushing my hips back, just trying to keep that nice kind of braced spine position with that PVC hinge. From there, still early on in the rehab, I want to get those low back muscles working, firing, pumping some blood in there. And one of my favorite exercises to do when somebody's really acute in their low back pain is to do a supine plank, also known as a Chinese plank. So I'll get 2 boxes, and I'm going to get my upper back on one edge of the box. I'm going to get my feet on the other box, and I'm simply going to work on lifting my hips up. I'm squeezing my butt, so my butt, my low back are working hard to hold me. I can put my arms overhead, or I can put a weight on my hips to kind of increase the challenge there a little bit so that we at least start working on some low back endurance and muscle activation there. As we progress further, what I really like going to next is a bent over row. So I like bent over rows because if we do them correctly, we're doing a hip hinge pattern. We're kind of holding an isometric contraction where our low back muscles are working without doing any movement, and then we're rowing to kind of challenge that position a little bit more. It makes for a great introduction to heavier loads on the low back for somebody that's maybe a little bit more cautious about fully getting back to deadlifts. Up next would be a banded good morning. So we step inside of a band, we get that resistance band placed around our upper back, and we do some good mornings with the band. You can obviously go with a heavier band than this one, but the great thing about this is in this bottom position where we're taxing the back the most, the band's on the least amount of tension. As we stand up, the tension increases, but we kind of have a little bit less stress on the low back in that top position. So it makes for a great reintroduction to loading the hip hinge pattern, similar to the bent over row in people that are a little bit more fearful about getting back to the bar. 3 other things we'll kind of progress people with. A kettlebell deadlift. So we're going to be a little bit more limited with a kettlebell weight-wise than a barbell. But the other thing about a kettlebell that might make it more advantageous early in somebody's rehab is because the kettlebell is going to go in between your feet, it makes it significantly easier because we don't have to move the bar and our body around each other as much. The barbell deadlift, it gets complicated on figuring out how to move it without having a weird bar path and having to move the bar around the knees. The kettlebell kind of gets rid of that issue for us, so it's an easier exercise variation to teach individuals. When we get back to the bar, it's fine if you want to jump straight to the floor. But for a lot of people, that increased mobility demands of pulling from the floor might be a little sketchy initially. And so maybe we want to start with something like a rack pull, where instead of the bar being on the ground, we start by having the barbell elevated, and we're deadlifting from an elevated surface. And as we progress, we're going from a lower and lower surface all the way till we're back to pulling heavy weights off the ground again. So I hope those exercises give you some ideas of how to schedule your rehab and progress back to full deadlifts without back pain. As always, check out thebarbellphysio.com for more information to help improve your strength, your mobility, or get back to doing what you love pain-free.